So far in our unit, we have been learning a lot about fractions. And today we're going to be talking about some different types of fractions. So the fraction you are familiar with the most is a proper fraction. A proper fraction is the numerator is smaller than the denominator. That's how you typically see fractions. Like 1/3 and 5/8, you see that the numerator is smaller and the denominator is larger. And that's how you want to see fractions. But sometimes you get a fraction called an improper fraction. And this is when the numerator is larger than the denominator. So you see this right here, 7/3. 7 is larger than 3, and 4 is larger than 3. So these are improper fractions, and that's kind of a little bit harder to visualize what 7/3 looks like versus if we see the proper fraction, which is 1/3 and 5/8. So we're going to talk more about improper fractions in a second. And then we have mixed numbers. That is a whole and a fraction. So you would see 3 and 5/7. 3 represents the whole and 5/7 represents what's left over. Then we have 2 and 4/9. 2 represents the whole and 4/9 represents the fraction that is left over. So it's important to know these three different types of fractions. This leads us into what we're going to be doing today. We are going to convert a mixed number to an improper fraction. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a mixed number and make it into an improper fraction. So say we have 3 and 1/2. Your first step is to multiply the denominator times the whole number, then add the numerator. There are 3 simple steps. So when I like to do this, I like to put arrows to remind me what I need to do. So I have a 2. I need to multiply my denominator by my whole number, 2 times 3. And then I simply just add the denominator. And I wrote out the steps right here. You multiply the denominator by the whole number, 2 times 3. That will give you 6. Then you add 1 to it, which gives you 7. And that will be your numerator. And your denominator always stays the same. So my new answer is 7/2. Remember, this is an improper fraction. You can see that it's a larger number on top and a smaller number on bottom. These represent the same thing, but you just changed your mixed number to an improper fraction. And sometimes in math, they're going to ask you to do that, to change a mixed number to an improper fraction. So it's important that you know these steps. Let's look at some of the examples. So number 1, 4 and 2/3. It might ask you to change your mixed number to an improper fraction. So what do you have to do? You have to multiply the denominator by the whole, 3 times 4, and then just add the numerator to it. So I did it over here. 3 times 4 gave me 12. Then I just add the numerator, which is 2, and got me 14. And my new answer is 14/3 because I always need to keep my denominator the same. It's 3. Let's look at our next example, 6 and 3/4. I want to change that into an improper fraction. So here's my steps. I broke them down into steps right here. First, I multiplied the denominator by the whole. 4 times 6, that gave me 24. Then I needed to add 3 to that 24, which gave me 27. My new answer is 27/4. And I got my 4 from my denominator because they always stay the same. So that's how you change a mixed number to an improper fraction. That is one way to do that. That is one way that you're going to learn today. Now, we're going to look at the opposite way now. How to change an improper fraction to a mixed number. So you have 9/8 right here. We always want to try to change an improper fraction to a mixed number because we can visually see it and we can understand it better if we change into a mixed number. 9/8 you could draw out, but visually in a second you're going to see what it looks like in a mixed number. So number 1, you need to ask yourself, how many times denominator goes into the numerator evenly? That number becomes the whole number. So if you have 9/8, you want to figure out how many times the denominator can go into the numerator evenly. This is kind of just like division when we're asking how to divide and how many times can something get divided into. So you're going to ask how many 8s can go into 9. How many times can 8 go into 9? Well, it can go in just one time. Then we're going to look at whatever is left becomes the numerator. So that 1 right here is going to become my whole number. Because if a whole 8 can fit into 9, it represents a whole. So that the 8 can go into 9 just one time. So that means that it's the whole of the answer. So whatever is left becomes the numerator. So you have a 1 right here from this answer. Then whatever was left over becomes your numerator. So 8 can go into 9 one time. What is left over from 9? Just 1. And I have a picture right here to show you. If we had 9 and we wanted to make a group of 8, we circled 8, but only 1 is left over from 9. So that's where your 1 comes right there. Then number 3, the denominator always stays the same. So look, we have our parts right here, and we just needed the denominator. The denominator stays the same, which is 8. And then I drew a picture to show you what these are the same, but we just wrote them differently. So you have 9/8 right here. So if I wanted to represent 9/8, I would need to fill in a whole 1 right here. I would need to fill in 9 parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that represents 1 whole. And then I need to fill in 1 more because I needed to get to 9. That's how many parts I shade in. And that would represent 9/8, but it also represents 1 and 1/8 because this is a whole 1. And then you have 1 shaded and 8 parts right here. So 9/8 is the same as 1 and 1/8, but we sometimes need to convert it over to show what it would be like in a mixed number. So they're the same, but we just wrote them differently, but they represent the same thing. So let's do an example. Number 1, 12/9. So the first step is to see how many times the denominator goes in the numerator. Well, 9 goes into 12 once. So 1 is my whole number. Then I need to see what is left over from that 12. Well, if I knew that 9 goes into 12 one time, that means that I have 3 left over. I just did 12 minus 9 because it goes in once. And 3 is my leftover. So 3 is my numerator. And then I'm just going to rewrite it. So 1, I come from here. 1 is my whole. 3 is my numerator. And my denominator stays the same. And then here's just an extra step that you are going to learn is just to simplify, which we're used to. And I just simplified it to 1 and 1/3. And then let's do one more problem. So we have 9/4. Our first step is to see how many 4s or how many times the denominator goes into the numerator. 4 goes into 9 2 times. I can make 2 groups of 4 go into 9 without it going over, that's like the most I can make it to go into make it go in evenly. So I have 2 is my whole. And then what is left over from 9 is just 1. So we had 2 groups, which would make 8. And then what do I have left over? Well, just 1. So 1 is my numerator. And then you get 2 and 1/4 as your answer. And the 4 came from the denominator. Now, I know this is a lot of information, and we're going to spend some time going over each of these. But make sure you take your notes, and then your homework will be on 12/6, and we will put that picture up on the slides for you to write your answers on a separate piece of paper, and you need to send us a picture today of that. All right, thank you.